All right, here we go. Bit of a surprise. Bit of a surprise stream tonight. Like I mentioned last week, I stumbled upon a whole supply of, or not last week, last time, a whole supply of photos I had overlooked. And while going through them, I found a very small set, only 21 photos from 2004. Just some random stuff taken around Baltimore, and I figured I'd might as well just do that tonight. Wasn't thinking I was gonna have time, but I have a little bit of time. And I'm all set up and ready to go. Don't have to do this some other night, so I'm just gonna go on for it. It's gonna be like I said, stuff around Baltimore back when I was going to graduate school down there, and we'll just sort of see what we have. And I was definitely inspired to do this when I looked at the first photos. And so my apartment was half a block away from the CSX Baltimore Terminal subdivision, and this is actually another good reason. You might have seen this back in 2014. So the I shouldn't even start there. I'm gonna do this the long way where I sort of get long-winded. Here we have the sort of the northeast corridor area, Philly up there. Here's Baltimore, and you can see where the the NEC comes out on this lower route. The CSX Philly sub comes out there, and here we have the old main line built in 1830-ish, 1831, heading out west. And if you're wondering why Baltimore was one of the pioneering rail areas, if you can sort of switch to the terrain view here, Baltimore is a wonderful, what do you call it? A wonderful harbor, but doesn't have a river. The harbor goes in and it stops. So and the terrain around the city is not very hospitable. So the question is how do you get the goods out of the harbor? And this is why they built a railroad. Other cities would have canals or a river like the Hudson. Pennsylvania had the main line system of canals and eventually its own railroad. But here they were trying to innovate. And how do you make, and this is where you can see why the old main line just cut right out of via the Patapsco River. Patapsco River is not really navigable. I think they did have a canal going up it at one point, but it just cuts right through this sort of hard scrabble up and down, no real valleys to the west until you got to the Potomac out here at Point of Rocks and other places. Another thing that might not be obvious is that the B&O didn't go north of Baltimore into the 1890s. This is what they built the Baltimore Belt Line. I've mentioned it before, and that sort of had to go up and then cut. You can see the line go through on this terrain map, sort of cut across the city after going up under the Howard Street Tunnel through all the hills of the Baltimore. This is where they have that 1896 electrification project, or 1892, with GE for steam assist. And anyway, my apartment was half a block from this Baltimore Belt Line. You can see on the terrain map how it just has to cut straight, cut against the grain here of these valleys that sort of drain into the basin downtown. And in the first year or two I was there, I had more free time than anything else. Well, not really a lot of free time, but I just hadn't been there for a while. So every time you'd hear the train, either I had my scanner out, they did and probably still do call signals, or you'd hear it. I'd grab my camera, go running the half block, take a picture. This got old after a couple years. I didn't do it all the time, but after you've done it enough, and to me, definitely one GE looked like any other GE, and it's just there wasn't a ton of just a lot of railroads had interesting things back in the early 2000s, but I didn't really see a lot of it. But first photo he have here is a CSX 663. This is a GE AC 6000 series. They were eventually downgraded by CSX shortly after this due to reliability problems of the high capacity engine. And then eventually they were all sold off to Progress Rail, oddly enough. But these were sort of put into service in the mid 90s, which prompted the SD80 Mac and SD90 Mac projects. 80 Macs having just now all been stored by NS, hopefully to be rebuilt, but we'll see. Anyway, behind him, we have another NS is 9756, and that's one of their quote-unquote brand new Dash 9s at the time, which were built up through 2004. So just another interesting thing is that CSX really definitely embraced the AC traction, and NS just thought it was an unnecessary expense. So CSX pretty much made the core of their fleet AC 4400s, and NS made the core of their fleet Dash 9s. So anyway, here we have the old Baltimore Belt Line trench. This used to be electrified until about 1956. Two track, again, until it was single track for clearance. And also, as I mentioned, in 2014, due to drainage issues, this wall would completely collapse and have to be rebuilt. But here we have the original stone block retaining wall. Almost all, I mean, these ends are still there, but almost all of that wall has now been replaced by a modern facsimile. So, like I said, again, it's a good thing here that I'm starting to go through these, even though it's only 21 photos or so. There's a lot of good history in them. I always called this the Charles Cut. I lived on North Charles Street. In theory, with all these little mini tunnels. The tunnels do have names. I think that's the St. Paul Tunnel and the Charles Tunnel, or something like that, or the Huntington Ave. This is where Huntington Ave interlocking is. But I would always just call this little one block segment the Charles Cut. Well, looks like I overdid that one. Let's see here. That's the problem. Undercompressed it. Don't want to be reducing the resolution on the photo and then save it so it's larger than the original. It's kind of counterproductive. Anywho, just a lot of things that don't compress well in the JPEG. All right, here we have not a lot. This is definitely something that has not changed, although there has been a lot of rebuilding. Here we have the St. Paul, the Charles Tunnel. Well, I think it's that. I can go look it up, but I just don't really feel like it. And yep, CSX still has plenty of 8000 series SD40s. That was I don't know. I mean, you know, we got a lot of SD40 leaders back then. A lot of interesting trains heading up here because you need to go around the Beltway to hit the ore. The CSX had port facilities, especially the bulk loading coal and other bulk things were on the north part of the shore, the harbor. So you'd always have these guys looping up and around, coming up the cut, always working hard. You can see the exhaust smoke here pouring out of the tunnel as it comes really working hard out of there. And again, we can see the original stonework and other pieces. Yeah, just one of those things that after enough time, you stop taking photos of it because you thought, it's going to be dull. Another thing at CSX, note that CSX would dig this tunnel out. It would get very overgrown with vegetation, sort of far, almost, a nice patch of green in the city, and then they'd show up and make a half-hearted. They basically would just clear out all the trees and such and just make it look bad, and then within 6 months it'd be the whole track. This whole track is nothing but a wet spot even today. Note it's always nice to see the SD40s with that big old wide porch there. I'm not sure what that was about. I think that EMD just wanted to use one frame, and they would build passenger or whatever on it, like the SDP40s. But it always caught me. Here we have an interesting one. Now I'm sure that this is some sort of maybe this was BN because I don't see any lease markings on it. Oh no, it's an HLCX 8168, which would probably I'm sure that was also BN 8168. This is getting marked as a SD50. Let's shape in the other stuff. HLCX. GP50. This one's calling an SD40-2. But they clearly did not repaint their number on it. So what's going on here? Oh yeah, he says SD40-2. I don't know why something said GP50. That's strange. Anyway, figured, you know. But and here we have a non-dark future 2507. See what that one is. GP38-2. Let's see if I can go backwards on this. Yep, there it is. It's the next seaboard line. Here it is, how it looked in 2005. Yep, just the GP38. Now I think it's gotten a -3 rebuild since then. But I'll just you know, add that all in. But yeah, it was fun. It was fun go running out there, and if I had it to do all over again, I probably would have done a little bit more. But at the time, you know, CSX stuff was just, you know, boring. And it wasn't, you couldn't wander out there. I mean, it wasn't just like, oh, let's go catch the train. No, you had to, when you heard the stuff hit on the detector, you had to book it. So that was another disincentive for me to keep doing this, because I looked like a crazy guy booking out of the back of my apartment unit with a camera, running down the street, jumping on top of the wall, and the train would come, and rinse, wash, repeat. You know, at some point I just was, I need to stop doing this so much. So I typically would do it, I sort of shifted into a mode where the signals were, there's a B&O position light there for Huntington Ave interlocking. And I'd see that lit up, and I'd get my pictures. But a lot of the times, you know, I didn't have, cell phone. I mean, cell phone cameras were terrible, and you know, I didn't have my camera on me. So, you know, toward the end of the tenure in there, when a train would roll by, I'd be able to go and pull out the the good cell phone camera. Smartphone camera. Anyway, there was definitely a lot of patterning to the stuff that came by. As you can see here is another AC6000. We got a surprising number of them. I was a big I'm still a big EMD person. I really kind of resented the AC6000, so I was not seeking them out or even interested in what they were when they were out there. And I'll tell you how to spot them, though. They were always one of those things when I was doing the write-up ahead of time and looking at the photos. That's not good. Looks like my browser just crashed. But not the one I was using for the stream, just the one I was using for everything else. Let me just restart that. Anyway, oops. Yep. Let me just make sure this is going. When my browser gets going, I'm gonna just make sure that everything's going on here. Uh-oh. Alright, we're good. We're good. Want to make sure that this guy is working. Okay. I'm not Mr. Super Stream Dude. Let's get away from that infinite recursion. All right. Yeah. So anyway, the way you can tell the AC 6000s. Now eventually, GE just the 6,000 horsepower things they were using. They wasn't using the proven FDL engine. I got to turn off that stupid video I was watching. They weren't using the proven FDL. They went to a German maker and had them. They did a joint venture to do up some sort of big O 6,000 horsepower engine. They were never very reliable. At some point, CSX after 2005 dropped a 16-cylinder Evo. Now, in theory, that should have been enough for 5,900 horsepower, but they limited them to 46, which I guess instead of having a 4,400 horsepower with 12 cylinders, they just dropped in more cylinders and only got a little bit extra. The way you can tell the 6,000s, and this is always a little hard because so many of the 3-digit CSXs are AC 4400s. It's easy to, and then from 700 up to like 999, they're ES 4400 ACs. It was only this little block in between the 600 and 675 or 700 that were again, if you forget the number, the way that you notice is they have this giant ass radiator on the back with this overhang that you could hang. If it was raining, you could stand under that and protect yourself. So that's how you tell they have this big old beefy. The radiator is what really stands out, and it's as big as as a later model one because they had to add all the split cooling for the intercoolers and stuff. But get the efficiency higher. But back in the day, the radiators on these were huge, and they couldn't do the V design because that would interfere with EMD's trademark. Psst, burn. And here again we have in another fun CSX lash up. Another reason I wasn't too keen on a lot of the going out and taking photos of CSX is because in this immediately pre-Dark Future days, CSX looked like crap. Here we have 8105. Look, it's in this weird. I mean, CSX has never been good for their paint schemes, and they just look tired and worn out, and you just didn't want to take a picture of it. Next. Hey, these things, these are back from the dead. Yep, Mark decided to keep its HHP8s, so they're still going on. Or at least until they're going to keep them until the warranty. And if they leased them from Bombardier, they're going to probably keep until the warranty runs out. I think this is the class photo. About this time is where these actually came online. Yeah, this is the class, so I'm going to overwrite this. So this is probably the first time I ever took a picture of 4914. They were, once again, I say it every time I come upon them, but yeah, Mark thought that they could get away with the Siemens SC44s to haul their heavy trains, and surprise, surprise, 4,400 horsepower minus HEP, it does not equal 8,000 horsepower. As much as you'd like to think that I don't think these are, if these are AC traction, they're like an odd kind of, I know that they're GTO inverters, so I guess they are AC, but something about that GTO technology wasn't very long lived. This is down on track 5 at Penn Station. Track 5 was a stub track that was put back in for Mark to specifically terminate their commuter trains. I'm not sure exactly what happened in the original configuration. Track 5 stub ends where this bridge was, so I'm wondering if there was some sort of bridge realignment. They pulled the track and then they put it back in. Here we have one of the totally too short for this world GP40WHs. For those of you who don't know, these were a Morrison-Knudsen rebuild using cabs and front-end components from old F-45 cowl units from Burlington Northern. They were paired up, I think, with some sort of Penn Central or who knows where GP40, given a Hep Pony engine and a really snazzy paint scheme. Mark still has one on this roster. It's either 62 or 68. Let me check. Oh, that's not what I want. It says on the Wikipedia page. I have one for reasons. 67 to 69 rebuilt. Oh, hold on. 68 is there. A lot of these were rebuilt into MPI with new MPI cabs, which is actually pretty cool. And here we have one of their Mark III or the Mark bi-level K cars. Also hanging out at Penn Station on one of the storage tracks. This might have been a weekend. Mark didn't run a lot of weekend or didn't run any weekend service, so they would just park stuff on the various tracks and let it idle all weekend. Usually with the AC on for some bizarre reason, just because it's not like it's electrics and they're just pulling down the stuff. They would have the pony engines idle all weekend just to run the HVAC. Bit of a waste. Here we just have a section break on track 6. That's going to be for the first set. Now we just have a slightly smaller second set here, and then I'll call it a day. Now I'm going to have some non-railroad stuff in that one as well. Appears that I took that picture because I was headed home for some sort of event. These photos are dated May 15th, so this probably would have been right after the end of classes in 2004. Might have been going back for some sort of high school reunion. I don't know. That's usually when they often are. I can't necessarily say that these photos were all taken on May 15th. Hey, here we go. Fun ACM7. Looks like an AC. I don't know my AEM7 AC numbers because they weren't done in a contiguous order. They did them until the funding ran out. So here's 935. This is still pretty. This is only going to be a year or two after its AC rebuild. Which were ironically, these were the first. As much as people love to rag on Amtrak and U.S. train stuff being behind the times, they were the first IGBT AC locomotives in the world. So take that, naysayers. Interesting seeing two trains coming by through here. This was right toward the end when you could still buy unreserved tickets on the NEC. Oftentimes I would do stuff like you could buy a reserved ticket on train 95 and then just go and catch some other, if you happen to get down there that day, you'd catch a different train. But Amtrak wanted to get into the insane, revenue management and bleed you dry. So there you go. But it was super. This was also when train sets there was a lot fewer people riding. Here we have Bell Tower. They still have that sign was still on it. I wonder when that fell. I saw Bell Tower today. It is not looking. This is the roof starting to go. This is 10 years later. That roof is gone, and the windows are all screwed up, and it is not looking good, and the sign is gone too. But someone stole the sign. I'm gonna have to figure out what picture of Bell that is, just so I can name it properly, just so I can do an overwrite on it. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, yeah, the vandals have hit it. The roof, there's a giant hole in the roof. It's got a nice fence around it saying that it's condemned. Not doing so well. When was this? This was taken 2016. This when I was out there in 2016, just trying to get some photos in case it got knocked down or demolished. Don't know what's in it. Don't know if the lever frame is still in it. So the fence appeared when the structural integrity really went south. So this is pre-fence. Got a little cosmetic restoration there. This is 2011. So like I said, here we have. Try to get a front view on this. Yeah, you can see the brown paint. It's not doing so well. I mean, not doing much good now. But this one, the paint was fresh. This is from 2004. So here we have the picture I just was looking at right here. So not a little over processed. We're going to see if we can do better this time. Might have to lose a shade of that roof trying to level this. But I can do a nice restoration job on the photo, at least try to. All right, I'm going to want to keep that pole and not that hut. I'm going to do a color balance. This was in a side window shot, so you got the color issues. I'm going to need to, it's a little too cool there. There we go. Let me see what a clarify does. But I'm going to need to resaturate. A little unsaturate. There we go. That looks good. These are just pictures from the old backyard. We were attempting to. We had a volunteer tulip poplar start growing in the yard, and we tried to transplant it to fill a gap where we could have used some shade, but didn't quite work out. So it was dead within a few months, so we just yanked it. I mean, it was trying to get it out of the ground is a little difficult. Fortunately, lady next door died. Now new neighbors moved in. It was actually a pro. No, wasn't the football player. A bunch of people from Tennessee moved in with a dog, put up a fence, and really cut out the. I mean, the lack of fence. I mean, yes, fences and nice neighbors and all, but not having a fence really made the space in the yard look just way more expansive. And now it's just everybody wants their own little chunk. And the worst part is that neighbor moved out within a year and sold it on to some other guy. I don't usually do. I try to avoid on these streams doing like more personal stuff, but these are just important. They're in the set, and I'm just trying to cut through them. Yeah, this is our attempt at some. I have done some transplants, hadn't been successful. This just was not one of them, and man, something was up with the camera that day. Woo! I don't know what's up with this. Everything's purple. Let's see if I can get rid of that. But yeah, we didn't get. I think we damaged the root system too much trying to get it out. It was it had taken seed next to the house, and it was a little thing. And over the course of about five to say 8 years, it just it just exploded, and it was like, this is too close to the house. We didn't want to just cut it down, so we tried to transplant it. It just didn't work. You got to be real careful. We've had success transplanting a holly tree, but not that. I don't know where all this grass came from. I know that we had to pull a little bit out of that hole, but then this was there. The irony is, we had just pulled down. You can see that there was some sort of blue-green evergreen that we'd cut down, and it just died, and it's gone. My mom was always about taking bushes down to sticks, and if they grew back, then that's great. That's called proper pruning. And if they didn't grow back, whatever, that was not her. Then it just wasn't meant to be. So her thing was, if a bush was getting out of control in the back, we gotta really do it again. You just cut it down to sticks. There's an azalea. Boom, there's another azalea. And they sucker, they come back, or they don't. That one did not come back. It's in there. That stump, I think, is rotted away. But the interesting thing is that holly tree in the background is now these azaleas are now monsters, and the holly tree has taken up everything on top of the azaleas. So they're all just flooding into the yard. I really need to do some major surgery. I forget the time when you should trim shit. Do you do it in the spring or the fall or the late winter? I just don't know. I know that if you do it at the wrong time, you kill it. So I'm just sort of hesitating. It just gives me something to talk about besides CSX. Other fun things on the backyard that, man, all this stuff's still there. The rhododendrons, I think, are kind of okay. And again, you can see it was like a juniper bush that we cut back, and they just died. There's the old compost heap. My dad used to compost the grass. Well, we composted everything. We never did anything with it. And we never, the crazy compost people are all about turning it and using it. We just were recycling it, and yes, it wasn't it over decades it would get to the point that it would hit the top of the thing, and then we'd spread it, and we raised the portion of the backyard by 3 feet. All back there. But the major death of the compost heap is when we realized that we really should not be composting or discarding your grass clippings. Mulch your clippings, otherwise you're just pulling a lot of nutrients right out of the yard and taking it away somewhere else. It's a lot easier and environmentally friendly and better for your yard. Although by now the yard is basically turned into all violets and stuff. This is another thing that I need to deal with. There's a hyacinth right there. I think that's what they're called. And another one there. All these plants are still there, but they need to be, they're out of control. And also this here was successfully transplanted, and it's in the backyard off frame there. So I'm just narrating this stuff. I'm sure someone in my family will find this interesting. But like I said, I was doing yard work all today, so I'm kind of on a kick. I swear I have one more train picture in here. We'll get to it, don't worry. Meh. There we go. So unlike, like I said, I had an apartment. I wasn't staying in a dorm, so I didn't go home. And look, another one, 654 with an SD40. It's like there was a trainmaster somewhere with some level of OCD or who knows what that just figured that the best thing in the world was to pair AC6000s and SD40s. That makes total sense, I guess. I don't know. But in this little block of time, I wasn't not taking pictures of anything else. I didn't even know what this stuff was. Train would go by, I'd recognize an SD40. I knew that AC6000s were a thing, but I I actively hated them so much that I just really didn't even care to spot them. So here we have 654 coming down with, who is that other one? This is the last photo in the set, so I'm not sure why I didn't take a picture of the EMD there. Ooh, it's going to remain anonymous. Sorry. Well, there we go. That's everything for today. Like I said, it's pretty quick. Sorry for the ramblings. Let's see if anybody's still left here. Oh, someone's asking my favorite. Oh, I'm on. This is Windows 7. Trust me. I just Microsoft just needs to provide I've just worked painfully to keep it in the Windows 98 style. I mean, why not? It worked fine. Urban Transit for favorite one. I mean, I guess. I mean, it's going to come down to homegrown. Either Philly or New York. Philly's got a lot of diversity. New York's got a lot more fun stuff. But New York's expensive and sort of a pain to get to. But Philly does. I mean, if you include all the weirdo trolleys and interurbans and SEPTA and the trolley buses, the Surface subway, there's a lot. I mean, I do a trip every year, so But yeah, Muni is also interesting. I mean, they're a little one note, but they got a lot of good trolley bus system. So anyway, that's all I got. This was designed to be really fast. I did not have a lot of time this weekend, but I seem to be getting most of my work done. We got a lot of fun stuff coming up. Look for me over the Thanksgiving holiday. I will definitely be doing streaming all that week. I'm going to be getting at least two 2-day sets done. We can figure out which ones we want to do. I got ACMUs back from 2004. I've got Mark Camden Line, although that I could probably do that in one day. I could easily do that in one day. That'll be a one day. Seashore Trolley Museum, more stuff at Staten Island Railroad. So, although I ended up more pictures probably on the way up there than on the SIR. But nah, we got a lot of fun stuff. Oh man, I wonder if I've even, when I ran down to Clifford Interlocking, and man, that neighborhood's bad, but it was way worse back then. Anywho, let's see how many pictures that is. Yeah, it's another one-day event. If I haven't done Clifford already, which I might have, I got to check that out. Anyway, thanks for checking on. I finally managed to get one done in way under an hour. Likeable, yeah. It's like I like old stuff, so you're gonna like New York, but Philly's old too. It just doesn't have the diversity it doesn't have the sheer amount of heavy rail, but it's got a lot of other fun stuff. All right, I gotta roll. Hey, everybody, have a great day.